Well, hello there, friends, and welcome back to the Dutch Dream Miata build. Oh no, wait, we haven't gotten to that yet. Well, don't worry, we'll get there. In this video, I want to follow up the story on the 6 engine related issues I experienced on the Miata. And after this video, I also hope that the story becomes a little bit more clear for you all. Even though I still do all my recording and editing on my phone, I do my utmost best to bring you the best quality videos I can. Now, if you really liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you wanted to follow the whole build, press that subscribe button. For me, seeing more likes and subscribers is really motivating, so keep it up. Now, right now, we're gonna pick up the story on the Miata. I'm gonna do a short recap for you all and add some add-ons. Here we go, let's get into it. I bought the Miata in October of 2017 and immediately did most of the maintenance on it. After I started driving it in the beginning of December, the previous owner called me up saying he had a black hardtop for sale. I jumped on the offer right away and picked it up about 2 weeks later. It removed the noise the soft top made and it made the cabin warmer in general, but at first I just really liked the looks. In March of 2018 I started rebuilding the rear suspension, and I also did the rear brakes, wheels and tires. The plan was to continue with the front suspension and replace the front brakes and tires as well. But after fixing the oil leaks and passing the Dutch MOT in May, it was a real bummer finding out that the oil consumption was way more than what was healthy for both the engine and my wallet. And besides this, the lifter tick was getting worse and becoming really annoying. After finding some convincing info online, I decided that rebuilding the head should solve both issues. And so, halfway through June 2018, the car went back in the garage to pull the head off the engine. I removed the OEM air filter box and intake piping, and because the coolant system had to be drained again, I decided to also remove the radiator to gain some extra room to work on the front of the engine. I removed the V-belts and pulleys first, then the ignition coils, valve cover, alternator and inlet manifold. And after removing the plastic engine covers on the front, the timing belt, cam gears and thermostat housing could come off. Because most of these parts had recently been worked on, this was a pretty straightforward process. But from here on in, it didn't exactly go smoothly. One moment I forgot to put on my gloves and immediately cut myself really nasty on one of the hose clamps. I also had some difficulty getting the exhaust downpipe clamp off of the gearbox bracket. I stripped the rusted bolt, and because of the lack of room, I ended up sawing through, holding a spare saw blade in a glove. It took some time and patience, but after I finally got through, I was able to move the exhaust manifold aside just enough that I could pull the head off the engine. Well, so far so good, right? Not exactly. I took the head to a well-known engine rebuild company and consulted the owner on replacing the valve seals for fixing the oil consumption and fixing the lifter tick as well. He first asked if this was a BP engine, which I confirmed. He then immediately stated that the oil consumption was not caused by the head, but because of worn or gunked up piston rings. I left the head to be rebuilt, so at least the lifter tick would be fixed. And because the oil pan had to come off to gain access to the crank, rods and pistons, I started reading the Haynes manual on how to do this. This is what I found. Because I had no interest in dropping the entire front subframe in my stepdad's garage to do this, I asked a friendly garage half a mile away if they would be interested to lift out the lower part of the engine for me. We ended up agreeing that for a fairly small fee, they would also put the engine back in after it was done. I thought that was awesome. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage or pictures of it, but I made an appointment, and because a friend cancelled on me last minute, the 2 younger mechanics actually helped me push the car through a one-way street all the way to their shop. And after removing the engine the next day, they also helped me tow it back and push it back in the garage. And I can tell you, it was way easier without the engine inside. After they pulled the engine, it was clear the rear main seal had been leaking a bit as well. At this point, I decided it would be best for the sake of originality to get the entire engine rebuilt. And after also dropping off the lower part of the engine,
I started cleaning out all the clutch plate dust and oil from in and around the gearbox. I also replaced the front transmission seal and gasket just to be sure. Inside I found a spacer ring broken, which I ordered and replaced. The top of the subframe also cleaned up really nice. I think the oil preserved the paint quite well, which cannot be said about everything in the engine bay.
While I was waiting for the engine internals to be inspected, the plan was to just do the seals, bearings and piston rings if that would be possible. So a few days passed and I started thinking about the fact that if I wanted to tune the engine, this would be the time. Although the cheapest and easiest way to gain power in the Miata, it would be to just slap a turbo on it. But I'm a big fan of all motor or NA engines. I just love the way they sound. But the Miata has a fairly low compression ratio and a very poor flowing intake system. As you probably already know, Mazda took this engine from the front wheel drive 323F turbo and placed it lengthwise in the Miata, as this was going to be a rear wheel drive setup. They also took away the turbo, therefore the lower compression ratio of the NA engine. So I decided new higher compression pistons and a less restrictive air intake system should give it more power.
While I was waiting for the pistons to come in and the engine to be rebuilt, I took the time to spray paint all the engine parts that did not get painted during the maintenance period. These were the engine mounts, a couple of brackets and the oil dipstick tube. After spray painting them in the front yard using heat protective paint from a can this time, they gave a really nice reflection.
Because I really want to share the entire story with you guys, I didn't get to the more juicy stuff until now. But I promise, the content will get better from now. And I'm gonna do my best to bring you the best quality videos I can. So I hope you liked the video. If you do, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe if you haven't done that until now. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye guys.